Today, we will learn about the advantages of digital communication system. The first advantage is noise immunity. Basically, the digital communication systems are much better at handling noise compared to analog. In the digital communication systems, a digital signal is represented by discrete zeros and ones. Even if some noise is added, as long as the receiver can still distinguish between a 0 and 1, the original message can be recovered. Let us understand how does the digital communication system only can do this other than the analog communication system. I mean, other than the analog signal. Because in digital communication system, there is a device called digital repeaters. These devices take in a weak or slightly noisy digital signal and they reshape and amplify it back to its original clean zeros and ones. No matter how far the signal has traveled, repeaters, these digital repeaters, can keep restoring it without adding any distortion. Let us understand why analog can't do this. Why analog does not have noise immunity? Because analog signals are, you can see the text here, analog signals are continuous waveforms. When noise like static, distortion, or any interference mixes with analog, it becomes a part of the waveform. Unlike digital, there is no exact reference point. Like as I told you, there is a digital repeaters in digital communication, whereas we don't have such thing or any other device in analog communication. So there is no any device to restore the original, so every amplifier just makes the noise even worse. Over the long distances, the analog signal keeps degrading. Let us understand with an example. You can also see this in the picture also. This is a digital communication, whereas this is a analog communication. For let us understand with an example. Mobile calls, like with like the calls we do with our mobile phones, these are digital, whereas the old analog telephones, that is an example for analog signal. So in digital mobile calls, your voice is encoded as zeros and ones. Even if some noise is present, the system recovers the clean signal. Whereas in the analog, you can see this here. Here they are using an analog landline or any telephone. Okay, so you could hear like hissing, crackling, or distortion because the noise directly distorted the waveform and could not be removed. As I told you, any voice added to the analog signal, it cannot be restored. It will be added to the waveform itself. This is one example. Let us see another example or another advantage. Another advantage of digital communication system is the digital communication systems allow efficient compression, reducing the amount of data that needs to be transmitted or stored. How does it do that? How does it do the data compression? Because we will be having a source encoder in digital communication system which does the data compression, and also the data can be later decompressed back into near original form. What does the source encoder does? It can remove redundant, repetitive, or irrelevant data while keeping the essential information intact. So when you want to understand how does the digital communication system does the data compression, just remember source encoder. We have source encoders which can remove redundant, repetitive, data. Okay, the example for data compression you can remember is, you can see it in the picture. It's a JPEG compression or an MPEG compression. A 1 GB raw video can be compressed to 100 MB without the viewer noticing much difference. Why analog fails doing this? Because analog signals are continuous waveforms, not discrete bits. You cannot remove redundancy without distorting the signal. Any attempt to reduce analog bandwidth directly reduces the quality. It gives a blurry picture or a muffled audio. Let us understand with a real life example if you want to clearly understand. Netflix versus analog TV. So, the digital, maybe like a Netflix or any YouTube video, a 2 hour HD movie which is of a raw size of 10 GB is compressed to 1 GB with minimal quality loss, streamable over Wi Fi or mobile data. Whereas the analog TV, like the old ones we used to use, the entire video signal is broadcast continuously at full bandwidth, takes up much more spectrum, allows fewer channels, and cannot be compressed efficiently. Another advantage is easy encryption. Encryption means locking your original message by applying a mathematical transformation. Without the right decryption key, which will be available for the right receiver, the data looks like a random bits. What is the advantage of it? This ensures confidentiality. What is the confidentiality means? Keeping, you can see here, keeping your information private. Even if someone tries to hack it, like hackers might capture the data while it travels to the internet or mobile networks, but because it is scrambled, they cannot understand it unless they know the secret key, right? They cannot understand it without the decryption key. The digital systems allow both end-to-end encryption like WhatsApp and secure authentication. What does it this end-to-end encryption means? Only the sender and the receiver can read the message. Not even the WhatsApp servers can decode it. And also secure authentication. What does it mean? The system can confirm you that you are the real sender, not an any fake one. Okay, using the digital certificates, OTPs, or cryptographic signatures. Okay, and why analog can't do this? Because analog signals are continuous and cannot be mathematically scrambled like digital bits. Okay, then analog is a smooth continuous wave. It's a voice or a radio. You can't directly apply modern math based algorithms to them. Another advantage is error detection and correction. Digital communication systems can detect and even correct errors during transmission, ensuring higher reliability compared to the analog. Technique like Techniques like parity bits, checksums, CRCs, and Hamming codes are used for error detection and correction. A real life example for a digitals or CDs, QR codes, or any internet data. A scratched CD can still play perfectly because error correction fills in the missing parts, and QR codes scan even if it's damaged. Whereas the analog, the cassette tapes or old TVs, if a tape is scratched or worn, you hear you hear noise, distortion, or missing audio or video permanently. No recovery possible. Another advantage is multiplexing. Digital signal systems can combine multiple signals and send them together over a single channel efficiently, which saves bandwidth and infrastructure. So, multiplexing means sharing the same medium among multiple users. In digital communication, methods like TDM, FDM, and CDM allow multiple signals to coexist without interfering. Each user gets a separate slot in time, frequency, or code space. Whereas in analog multiplexing, like old analog telephone, the multiplexing is inefficient. Each channel needs guard bands to prevent overlap, So then, waste is spectrum. Crosstalk and interference are common in analog multiplexing or analog communication. So scaling to many users is difficult. For example, the digital mobile networks like 4G or 5G, thousands of users share the same cell tower using multiplexing. So each gets a slice of frequency, time, or code. Whereas the old analog telephones, each call required a dedicated line or fixed frequency. This severely limited the number of calls possible. Di- and the another advantage is storage and retrieval. Digital signals can be stored and retrieved without any loss of quality, unlike analog signals which degrade over time. Understand with a real life example. Well, we use the Spotify, Apple Music, or any MP3 songs. Songs sound the same today as they did when first recorded. You can stream or download anytime without loss. Whereas the analog cassette tapes or records, after repeated plays, tapes stretch or get noisy. Records get scratched and quality of continuously declines. Another advantage is cost efficiency. Once the infrastructure is built, digital communication is cheaper, scalable, and more efficient than analog systems. Understand with a real life example. Whereas in the digital, today's internet backbone spans continents via optical fibers, enabling clear video calls between New York and Tokyo with almost no noise. Whereas the analog or long distance calls had static echo and voice fading because the noise accumulated with every amplifier along the path. Another advantage is long distance communication. Digital systems allow signal to travel over very long distances with minimal degradation thanks to regeneration and efficient transmission methods. We are doing this long distance communication easily because of the, as I told you before, optical fiber communication and satellite communication. So, what is the benefit of it by using this digital communication? It's cheap also. As I told you before, it's cost efficient. The digital communication like WhatsApp, Skype, or Zoom allow free or very cheap global calls over the internet. Whereas the analog, the traditional international calls cost several dollars per minute because they required dedicated physical circuits across countries. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next session with another interesting topic.